Are you tired of low freight rates? Is it time to go on strike? On this episode of Driven Too Far, we're going to talk about what it takes to get rates to rebound. Hello, I'm Andrew Winkler with Chief Carriers, and this is Driven Too Far, the truth about trucking, a podcast that helps over-the-road truck drivers balance career and family. Welcome back to Driven Too Far. On today's episode, I want to talk a little bit about truckers striking. So it's all over social media. It's all over the group chats out there. Is it time for drivers to go on strike? Well, that's a great question. But before we answer that, let's figure out how we got ourselves in this position to begin with. So let's jump back to a little thing called 2020 called COVID. If you remember that, the world shut down. We didn't know what to do. So all of a sudden, the store shelves are empty. Trucks were in high demand, and we started moving more freight than ever before. When the trucks became in high demand, rates shot up. There wasn't enough trucks out there. Shippers had to pay more and more and more money to buy that capacity to get their products moved, to get them out to the consumers. So that was a great thing for our industry. One of the other things that happened during that time was an opportunity. So a lot of people saw the opportunity to jump into the trucking world. It was easy to go buy a used truck, used trailer. You could make a ton of money for quite a while there up through 2021 because the demand was so high. We were trying to play catch up to get these shelves restocked and keep the warehouses full and things like that. We saw a spike in motor carrier registration, so new entrants into the game of more than 50%. We saw some owner-operators that were reporting profits of $20,000 a month. So it wasn't just income, they were just killing it. Everybody's out there getting fat, life is great. This is fantastic. So what happened? Well, at some point, what goes up must come down. Eventually, we kind of caught up with ourselves, and there was enough trucks in the market that we were able to stock those warehouses back up, and the demand started slipping. Since October of 2022, there's been more than 15,000 registered carriers go out of business, and it continues to fall. So there needs to be more trucks go out of business, or more truck lines or carriers go out of business. So why is this recession, this trucking recession, lasting longer than most in history? There's a couple reasons for it. The first of all is remember the free money. Remember what happened after COVID? There were stimulus checks. Small businesses were getting them. Individuals were getting them. So there was a lot of money and cash pumped into the system. So that allowed some of these small business operators to continue to operate. Even after profits and income started to fall, they had a little cash in the bank and they could continue to operate their truck line. So that's one of the reasons that this one's lasted so long. The other one is the lenders themselves. What happened to the lenders is they got themselves in trouble. So we got a spike in new entrants. Everybody wants to borrow money to go buy more equipment to help out this trucking crisis that's going on. And the lenders were doing that. And they were probably making some loans that maybe they shouldn't have. And the truck prices at the time were very high. People didn't care. They were lending them the money. They're going out and buying overpriced equipment until everything starts to crash, and now all of a sudden it's a problem. So you've got high-priced equipment out there. People with banknotes they can't quite cover right now. So those lenders are in jeopardy themselves because they've made quite a few bad loans, and now they have to figure out what to do. So the truck markets right now are not good. So if I pull back that loan, or if I call that loan in, I'm going to get an old piece of equipment that's worth a lot less than what's on the note. Do they want to do that? Do they want to write off that loss or take that beating? And the short answer is no, they don't. So their only alternative option is to continue to let that small business operate and hope that freight rates and the business turns around for them and they can start making money again. So we're through COVID, we're through 21, we're through 22, and things start to slip. Things start to really slip, 22, 23, and now into 24. We're sliding against the bottom here. We haven't seen rates this low in a long time. And what we need to happen in order for those rates to rebound is we need capacity to fall out of the market. And by capacity, I mean available trucks and drivers. So how does that happen? Well, unfortunately, the weak in the market need to go bankrupt. They need to close their doors, hang up their keys, whatever that looks like. But we need some capacity to exit all the way out of the trucking industry. And I want to remind you, when we talked about, how COVID impacted it and there was this huge spike above the big demand for trucks and things like that in 2020, if you were one of those people that jumped into the market, you were new to trucking at the time and you thought, hey man, this would be a great time to jump in and make some fast cash, you were right, it was, but now you're part of the problem. And I know you don't want to hear that, but the reality is all those extra trucks and drivers that jumped into the market that had not been doing it before, you're still hanging around, and that's what's keeping the freight rates low. So when you go to social media right now, if like I've told you before, I belong to a couple group boards and chats and stuff like that, just mainly to keep my pulse on what drivers are talking about. There's a lot of chatter out there about, hey man, we need to go on strike. Let's do it. The ports just did it last week and they had some success to it. We need to band together as truck drivers and do the same thing. I'm going to give you my 2 cents on that and why I don't think it will probably work for you. It's because trucking is so fragmented. When you look at the stats of trucking, there used to be roughly 400,000 motor carriers registered. Now there's over 750,000. So that's how far it jumped when all these people jumped into the game. But we need those people to fall out. Of the 750,000 trucks registered, 750,000 motor carriers registered right now, almost 98% of those operate 10 trucks or less. So it's the small guy. That's where all the capacity is it's people with 10 or less trucks. So it's your single owner operator, maybe somebody that had success, added a couple more trucks, but nevertheless, they're running less than 10 trucks. So that's what I mean when I said it's very fragmented industry. It's not these huge companies. Yes, we've got the mega carriers out there with 10,000 trucks and things like that, but they make up a very small portion of the overall number of trucks operating in the United States and Canada. So the fragmentation, I think you're going to have trouble getting everybody to agree to band together, say, okay, let's take a week off, let's park the trucks and not haul freight. That'll teach those shippers and those dirty brokers. The problem with that is because it's so fragmented, while you might have enough cash in the bank to do that, to park the truck for a week or a month, most people don't. The reality is we still live paycheck to paycheck in this industry. So as soon as you park your truck, that leaves more freight for the next guy, and he's going to continue to haul it. I just think it'd be very, very difficult for somebody to actually organize that and get everybody to actually agree to park the trucks for a week or a month or whatever that takes. And by the way, the shippers and the brokers are not the enemy here. Remember 2020 when there wasn't enough capacity? What happened to the rates? The rates went clear up. What do you think those shippers were thinking at that time, going, man, these dirty truckers, they're just putting it to us. They're taking advantage of this. So this pendulum swings. It's always swung in our industry. It's part of the economic cycle. Right now, it's not working in our favor as truckers, but it will. As soon as enough capacity exits, things will start to rebound a little bit, and it won't be fast. Most expert talk, and they think it's going to be summer of 2025 before we see any kind of real rates, kind of come back up or rebound there. This is just really simple economics. It's nothing more than that. If you're an independent or one of those smaller carriers we were talking about, and you're out there working the broker boards, that's part of your issue. Because you don't have customer contracts, it's that broker that went in and got the customer contract. Now they're playing that middleman. So you're hauling for the broker. He's taking his 15, 20% out of the middle, and you're doing all the work. Until the independents, the small guys or the smaller carriers can actually go out there and start to get your own contract customers, I think you're going to have a really difficult time. Guys surviving off the broker boards, again, you could do it in 2020 because the rates were jacked up. Brokers were making a ton of money and they were passing that through to you, even though they were still keeping that 15%. There was still a nice chunk left over for you, and we were all getting fat. I was just on a social media chat board last night, and again, it was, everything's out there. Hey, we should strike. And I just responded to one, and I basically told them why I didn't think it was probably going to work. And I had a few people jump back at me and stuff, and oh, you're a carrier, like I was one of the bad guys and wasn't one of the small independents. But no, I just tried to explain the position that, just like I'm sharing with you, I said, with the fragmentation, I don't think you're going to be able to pull it off. Listen, I'm in pain too. I am a carrier. I am like you. Do I operate more trucks? Absolutely. But we're feeling it too. There's times we use brokers in our business and stuff to reposition trucks, and the rates are $1 a mile less than what they were a couple years ago. And that's not enough. I mean, it hurts. So I'm not in any different position than you. I just see the world a little bit different. I think a lot of the small guys think the shippers are the enemy or holding the cards. And in some ways they probably are, right? But if they don't need to raise rates, why would they? And I get that's why you're saying, hey, that's why we need to go on strike. I don't really feel like you're going to be able to pull it off. So for me, and in business, and whether you're a small guy or a big guy or a medium-sized guy like me, it's about when you take the wins in 2020, you put the cash away, because there's going to be a rainy day and you're going to need it. And that's where we're at right now, is we're at this rainy day. We're all burning through cash right now because the rates out there aren't necessarily covering our expenses to operate the equipment. And our hope is that there's a ray of sunshine at the end of that tunnel, and it'll come sooner rather than later. But at the end of the day, the strong are going to get through this. The people that put the cash away during the fat times are the ones that are going to get through this. The guy that went crazy and thought trucking was so easy and stuff back then, and now he's burned through all of his cash and he's really struggling. Those are the ones that need to go broke, to be honest with you. And I know that's tough to hear, but that's the way business works. The weak should not survive, and the strong will. So that's where we're at today. And I'd leave you maybe with one last thought is even if somebody could organize enough trucks to kind of go on strike, I think that'd be a temporary solution. Because when you think about it, okay, we shut down for a week. The shippers are saying, man, we need to pay more. Okay, we'll pay a little more to get these trucks moving. But if no trucks left the industry, if nobody exited, won't we be right back in the same position again in 6 months or so? Yeah, I think there's a really good chance of it. So the only fix to this issue, I think, is we've got to get enough carriers to exit the market. Thanks for joining us on this episode of Driven Too Far. If you're looking for more opportunity to advance your trucking career, check out the show notes.